Hello everyone, myself Pilvinder Kaur. Here I am representative of Group 2, in which we are total 6 members, including me. Ramandeep Kaur, Rubal, Rakhi, Manmeet Singh 486, Manmeet Singh 841. So this is a case study given by respected Professor Roger Bachelor. It is a case study between Bank of Montreal and Mr. Duguid. In the second slide, you can see it is the introduction of the case, in which it is given this case study of Mr. Duguid, and this is a court case that is regarding the loan repayment. And second point is the Mr. D applied for a loan with his colleague, and the Bank of Montreal was not ready to provide it because of the based on their assets. Third point is that Mr. D has taken advice from a real estate agent wife, and she has taken the independence advice. In the fourth point, you can see that it is written the bank did not suggested Mrs. D to take the independent advice and did not disclose its financial viability, as they didn't disclose their relation in front of the bank. Okay, so in third slide, that is basically the background of the case. As per the option JA, it was not required to inform Mr. D about the failure of the bank, her independent advice, and the quality of the investment. The creditor is the third party and not a person of undue influence. To prove the wrongdoer acted to the third party, there should be a constructive notice. In fourth slide, as we can see, it is written the bank construct the notice of wrongdoing between Mr. and Mrs. D. Mrs. D was not undue influencer between Mr. D and Mr. A. Mrs. D doubted the finance of her husband, and that is considered as the undue influence. The trust of the wife cannot be undue influence between the two persons. After this, I will hand it over to Ramandeep Kaur to continue the case.
Hello everybody, myself Ramandeep Kaur. Here I'm going to discuss about the faults in the judgment of the case between the Bank of Montreal and Mr. Duguid. So the overall is as per Fadman J, there is a fault in the conclusions of two conclusions of the judgment, which are the quality. Quality of the investment by the bank, and second one is the uh, bank should not comply with the internal with its internal practices regarding the investment. So the main overall is the good case study shows some of the faults in the judicial system, including lack of consistency, potential for bias, and the importance of the following proper procedures. These faults can lead in injustice and uncertainty in the business world, where decisions made by the courts can have significant effects. To be continued, the constructive notice. There are some notices from the bank. The main one is the undue influence. So the notice has no information about the investment and the quality of the investment. The notice has an impact on the relationship between Mr. and Mrs. D. The bank was on the notice of undue influence, and that was danger for the bank. So the main thing is that the court held that there is a close relationship between the grantor and the principal debitor or the co-signer. The grantor reposes trust and confidence in the principal debitor, and the transaction is a disadvantages in the grantor. So in the in Duguid case, the court found that the bank was necessarily aware of the close relationship between the husband and the wife, and therefore had a duty which it failed to perform to assure itself that the wife's decision to co-sign. So next slides are followed by my next friend.
Hello everybody, my name is Manmeet Singh 841. Here I will give the overview of the case. The case study could help reject the bank's appeal if the court believed the original judgment was right and the bank didn't have to tell Mrs. D about the investment quality. As per the source, the bank didn't give proper information about an investment and didn't follow its own rules about the investment, which might lead to the appeal of the court will be rejected due to bank failure. Turn the slide, please. Moreover, Mrs. D claims that her husband unfairly influenced her. She also claims that her husband influenced her decision making, even though she is not seeking any relief against her husband that who is bankrupt. Mrs. D wanting to keep part of the deal separate seems odd if she blaming someone else. They also believe that the influence on Mrs. D came from the husband, not from the bank. In third slide, overall, these arguments suggested that the bank appeal should go through because Mrs. D's husband, not the bank, influenced her decisions. The focus is on their relationship and the contract they signed. Thank you. My next team member will continue the case.
Hello everyone, my name is Manmeet Singh and my student ID is 4364486, and today I'm going to shed light on the analysis part of this case. Is that the general proposition says that in the case of the transaction, a party may set aside. This is a transaction that has been made by the undue influence of the husband and wife, and typically this type of transaction is where the husband and wife influence each other, but the wife has decided to keep the 1/3 aside, and this is against his husband. And to be continued, as the Feldman JA has noticed and the House of Lords reviewed, the case of O'Brien's is most similar to this case. As in O'Brien's case was the company's shareholder and he has the unsecured and he wanted to increase the overdraft. The house by him and his wife, and that is the reason the bank agreed to increase the overdraft. And moreover, Mrs. O'Brien has kept the step of the bank on the ground and accepted the undue influence of her husband. That is the reason the court has decided to find the married woman and give them debt security. In this case, Mrs. O'Brien got a free consultation from the court and the court dismissed the House of Lords. Thank you, and I would like the next team member to continue.
Hello everyone, my name is Rakhi. I would like to present this slide. In this slide, in 1991, the Supreme Court of Canada dealt with a situation where a person who made a will gave $1,000 each of his sons, but the rest went to her daughter who had a mental problem. The sons were worried that their sister might make an unvoiced decision because of her mental condition. Next slide, please. In this slide, the House of Lord thought it was essential to consider the risk of the wife before taking on the debt. They did not want the wife's permission to be seen as an example of undue influence, meaning she was forced or manipulated into agreeing. They wanted to make sure it was a fair decision for everyone involved. It's all about protesting the rights and well-being of each person. Next slide, please. If the wife feels like she was forced or manipulated into signing the contract, then she could definitely make a complaint about undue influence. It is all about making sure that both parties are treating fairly, and that no one is taken advantage of. And when considering the debt, it's sure important to think about how it might affect the wife's financial situation. We want to make sure that she is not put in a position of inqualify or disadvantage. And of course, trust and confidence is marital relationship are key. Thanks. And my next team member Rubal will present next slides.
Hi everyone, my name is Rubal Arora. Here I'm going to talk about the next slides. To be continued. Moreover, Mr. Duggett had the notice for her part and that was valid. Miss Duggett has taken her decision her own. There was no example of undue influence. Miss D can set the transactions aside. There is no evidence of undue influence. Next slide. In the opinion, there is no evidence of Miss Duggett has an allegation against her husband. She responds with trust and confidence in her husband, which is doing by ourselves. The investment was tax driven, and Miss Duggett is a principal of the school. Moreover, the conclusion of this topic that the bank took the positions that the financial positions was not good for Miss Duggett. Miss Duggett and his assistants were not sufficient with the money. There are the close relationship and the main cause for undue influence. Everyone close relationship make the cause for undue influence. Miss Duggett was asked to send the income proof to the bank. There is no nothing to say that the close relationship between Miss Duggett and Mr. Duggett has set under due influence. And there are the reference which is doing in all the topics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.